welcome to another edition of Storytelling on Orchard Street. I'm your host, Pete Salamita, and we're in the podcast studios of P&T Knitwear Bookstore on 180 Orchard Street. It's a great bookstore filled with all genres of books for you to browse and hopefully buy. And there's a fantastic cafe in the back, and you can have a nice drink and sit at the table and check out your book. My guest today is Kadet. Anne grew up in Buffalo, majored in philosophy, and got her start in journalism, writing for community papers in Buffalo and Queens. She spent a decade writing a column about New York City business and consumer trends for the Wall Street Journal's City section, which won her a National Press Club Award for humor writing. She is now the creator of Cafe Anne, a newsletter with a focus on New York City that takes a fresh look at the everyday delights in the absurd and profiles of unusual folks who do their things their way. She is a volunteer teacher and manager at Kadet Meditation Center in Brooklyn and lives in Brooklyn Heights with her dog, Minnie. So, Anne, welcome
Hi, thank you,
to the
Pete.
podcast. Thank you. So, we were in a band together.
So long ago.
So I guess the last time I saw you would have been around, was it 2002 maybe? It was right
That
before.
sounds about right, yep.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, because my son, so I went to culinary school, and then 3 months later, my son was born, and I was like, okay.
You have a son?
You forgot? his name is Jack, and
right.
so he just turned 21 actually.
Oh my God.
Right, and it's crazy to think of it. I was under the realization that being in a rock band and doing those two things at the same time was a bit much. So it's great to see you. You look like you haven't aged a day.
Oh, thank you.
Just as beautiful
Likewise.
as ever, and fashionable. So, we're just going to do a little background about, how you got to be a writer. And so you already said that you grew up in Buffalo. And
Right.
when did you move to the city?
It was 1996. It was Marathon Day.
Okay.
I remember very clearly because I hadn't really lived in the city before. And my ex-husband at the time, we were driving in New York, and we had it was a really long tractor trailer, and we were trying to get through the city, through the marathon. And I cried a lot. I remember that. Yeah.
New York City is intimidating even if you live here.
Yes, yeah.
It really is. And I've never been to Buffalo. Is it that much small? I mean, I know it's a smaller city.
Oh my God,
but how
Buffalo
much
used to be a big city. It used to have 1 million people, and I think now they're down to about 250,000 people.
That's because manufacturing.
Yeah, steel
died.
plant,
Yeah,
etc.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame. Tom, your ex-husband, it's okay, we talk briefly.
Sure.
I always remember the thing he said, New York City is the city that never sleeps, and Buffalo is the city that never wakes up. That's always stuck in my head. He's got a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And you don't play music anymore, I just found that out.
Yeah.
But you're a wonderful writer. I love your column. But let's talk about, you studied journalism.
Philosophy.
Oh, philosophy.
Yeah, I didn't really study journalism.
Oh, that's crazy. So how did you
Yeah.
wind up in journalism?
I
Does
don't
it
know.
say this in your... No, it doesn't say.
I needed some way to make money. When I graduated from college, I got a waitressing job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, uh-oh. I didn't really have a plan.
Did you write? Like growing up?
I wrote fiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you still
I
write
wrote
fiction?
a lot, like all young ladies in high school, I wrote a lot of poetry.
Oh,
I wrote
okay.
a lot of short stories. I never really had any interest in journalism at all.
Right.
And then I was just like, whoa, I need to make some money,
Well, that's crazy. You went
And,
up with a career in journalism without studying it.
I was like, I'm a good writer. I always knew that.
Right.
So I'm like, I can write anything. It doesn't matter what I write about.
Sure.
And then it turned out I got an internship where I worked for free at the Cheektowaga Bee
Okay.
outside of Buffalo.
What's that?
It was a weekly community newspaper.
Okay.
So I wrote about crime and schools and
Okay.
stuff like that. I'm
Right.
like, I love this. It was so fun.
All right.
Yeah.
By the way, I always ask people what they want me to talk about, and you're the first person that gave me explicit instructions of what not
That's
to
right.
talk about.
Yeah.
And I understand that, especially a couple of them. But I'm just going to ask, why not movies? You don't like
Well, I
movies?
don't know, because I don't. No, most movies are horrible.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, most
okay.
people don't understand that.
All right.
They're not worth going to. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Well, we're not
Every
gonna-
once in a while, there's a good movie, but very seldom.
I guess I can't totally argue with that.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they let us down in Hollywood. Um, well, I see you're doing meditation, and so you're using that
What?
your philosophy, your knowledge of philosophy.
Yeah, actually, it's weird. There seems to be a lot of people who are heavily into Buddhism who were philosophy majors, but it's
Right.
people who just like who really want to get into the thing, you know?
Right.
Yeah, who like to kind of think deeply and
Yeah.
are willing to like mull things over for a long time.
Does that
Yeah.
help you when you're writing?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One nice thing about studying philosophy is that you might not agree with the way people what they say, but
Right.
you can understand their line of thinking because there's only about 4 different ways to think.
Oh, is that true?
I know I just made that up,
Right.
but it's true-ish,
Okay.
right? And if you understand that someone like believes A, they probably also believe Z all the way down the line,
Right.
you know. And when you've studied philosophy, you kind of have an overview of the trend, the arcs of people's thought processes.
So
Yeah.
thought processes are
And also
are
like how to
fluid,
present them.
if
Yeah.
somewhat fluid. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
You know, it makes sense now that you're saying that because this is what I get from reading your. Oh, let's talk about. I mean, your past is great, but I want to make sure we get in all of we can
Yeah.
about your great newsletter, Cafe Ann. By the way, you can subscribe to Cafe Ann,
It's free.
right? And it's free. But guess what? I'm going to do something I've never done on this show before. Watch this. I hope I can do this quickly. Nope, that's not it. All right, here it is. I should have bookmarked this. So the philosophy, what I was going to say about the philosophy part
Yeah.
is this is what I get from reading what you do. You're very open-minded and non-judgmental, right? You're adventurous, you're witty, and very folksy. Matter of fact, I think that you should take all this work you've done. Or how long has it been you've been doing it?
3 years now, yeah.
I think you should collate a book.
I hear that a lot. If
Yeah.
someone wants to make a book for me,
Okay.
go for it.
Because it's really worth it.
Thanks.
I think people should read it. Okay, so I don't know if I can do this quickly on the air. Okay. All right. Here we go. I am going to subscribe.
Yay! Thank you.
I admit that I've been one of the freeloaders, and I keep saying, I should subscribe. I should do it. I should do it. I should do it because I do look forward to it every
Thank
week.
you.
So look,
Yay!
I'm going to hit Apple Pay, and it's not that much. It's only $30
That's right.
for basic.
Yeah, I mean, it's free for everybody, but you
Right.
can also pay for it
But
if you
it's-
want to.
it really-
Yeah.
it really
And
deserves to be paid for.
Now, Pete, you can join the great 3% of the readers who pay.
Oh, that's only
Yeah.
3%. All right. Well,
It's pretty typical.
hopefully
Yeah.
people hear this
Yeah.
and they go check it out.
Yeah.
So it's on Substack,
Yeah.
and
If you just Google Cafe Ann, it should come right up.
okay.
Yeah.
And Substack is a good place to go.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
starting to get
so
into
much,
it.
so much
Right.
fun stuff there.
There
all
really
the
is.
all the best writers are on Substack.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to talking about a little bit about some of the articles articles. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the first one I read was the one about chess in Washington Square.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And I loved it because back in the day when I first moved into the city, I moved into the city in 1980, and I didn't know anybody, and I lived by myself at the time. I was going to college at Baruch College, and I would often after school walk down to the village, maybe get something to eat, hang out, and of course you would step into Washington Square Park, and get hounded by the drug dealers, and sometimes make bad choices. But I was always struck by the people playing chess there.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and it looks like a real serious thing. Now I'm not very
yeah.
good at chess, but
Yeah.
so I would be so intimidated to sit down. But you did it. You went there and you talked to people.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really cool. And I learned something that about that whole scene. It was really in depth and cool.
The guys were great.
Yeah.
They were all like really very interesting thinkers who are also kind of like street people too,
Right.
in a way. And
Right.
but they're like super smart and they know a lot about human nature because, they've spent 20, 30 years playing chess with all comers, students,
All
and
kinds of
old
people,
like
people from around the
yeah,
world,
people from around the world come to play chess with
tourists,
these guys.
yeah,
The very
right.
best chess players in the planet go to
Right.
play with these guys.
Yeah.
And and they know how to be entertaining because that's kind of part of what they're being paid for is to entertain you, right? While you play chess with
So
them.
explain the pay part.
Well, there's all kinds of ways that they can make her lose money.
Right.
Some will actually like give you a chess lesson. You can pay $50 for an hour's chess lesson. Some will play speed chess and you put $5 on the table and whoever wins will get the $5. There's all kinds of ways that they do it. Yeah.
That's so cool. So that was the first article I read, and I was like, this is really cool. And so there's a bunch that I just picked a few out that stick in my mind without having to go back.
Some of my favorites for sure.
So one of them, if you look at Anne and how she's dressed, this is Anne's official outfit, right?
It's my fourth quarter of 2024 outfit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you always wear black.
Well, I wear the same thing every day.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Which I find so cool. It's like you don't have to think about it when you get up in the morning.
No, I order like 6 to 8 of the same item. Like I just bought 6 of this shirt.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to wear it every single day.
But it's always black, right?
Yeah, always black because it doesn't show dirt.
Right. Which in New York City is helpful.
And every black thing goes with every other black thing, so you don't need to worry about mixing and matching.
Right.
It's really because I don't like shopping.
Okay.
I don't like spending money.
I hate shopping.
And I don't like fussing with clothing. So it really works for me.
Okay, so those are good reasons.
Yeah.
When did that start? Because I don't think that you did that when we were in a band together.
No. I used to be a normal person. It started when I was just like, wow, I really love wearing dresses, So I started wearing dresses every day, and I just got rid of everything else. Right. And then I'm like, there's this one dress I really like. Maybe I can just wear that in different colors.
Wow.
So I did that for about a year. Wow. And then I'm like, you know what I really like? I like this dress, but I like it in black the best. And I'm like, I wish I could just wear this black dress every day.
Right.
And then I thought, I can. Right. And I bought 6 of them, and I wore the same black dress every day for 4 months, and nobody noticed. And I'm like, I can just keep going. Yeah.
So then you got the idea to see what it would be like to drop that fashion idea, and you decided to go to a thrift store.
Yeah.
It was the one on Atlantic Avenue?
It's the Salvation Army the Goodwill on Bond and Livingston in downtown Brooklyn. Yeah.
And you went there, and you didn't just pick something out. You let a salesperson do it.
Yeah, I went to the first clerk I saw, and I'm like, pick me out an outfit.
Right.
I'll wear whatever you want me to for a whole week. And he's just like, awesome. And he's just like, I think you'd look great in peach. And I'm like, oh,
Which is not your color, right?
No, and he picked me out this gauzy, frothy pink top of silver spangles. And then he paired it with this horrible pair of Gap khakis.
Well, he's a thrift store guy. Because real thrift store people like wildness and doing all kinds of
and he's just like, you look great. And I'm like, well, I said I'd wear it, and I will.
Right. You'll do anything for your art.
I will.
Right.
Yeah.
And how weird was it when you went out into the world?
It was so weird. Well, first of all, I've been wearing all black every day for 6 years, so just the reaction from my friends.
Sure.
And I didn't tell them that I was doing an experiment. I'm just like, I'm just trying this out, and they're like, okay.
If I remember correctly, even your doorman took a second look.
Yeah. And a lot of people really liked it.
Right.
Yeah. But what was interesting, I was just like, because I felt like people were treating me differently, as if I was a little stupid, I'm like, I'm going to do an experiment. So there's a couple kind of highbrow bookstores in my neighborhood, and I went to both of them one day wearing my typical black outfit.
Right.
And I asked the clerk to pick me out a book.
Right.
And they took me to the literary section, and they picked out these very fancy books, and they're like, are you a writer? Are you in publishing?
Sure.
They treated me with a lot of respect and care.
Right.
And then
you do look like you could be.
Yeah, well, I am.
Well, I know, right? But you have that look.
Yeah, and then I went back with the peach spangles, and I'm like, hey, can you recommend?
Same store.
Yeah, the same 2 stores.
Right.
And I'm like, can you recommend a book for me? And they're like, yes. And they took me right to the bestsellers table. Right. They're like, you would love this. And they didn't ask me what kind of book I liked. They just assumed that I was a dumbhead.
That's so funny.
It makes a big difference.
I guess how you look and how you dress.
It really makes a difference.
By the way, speaking of books, we have, they're off camera, but we have guests in the studio. We have Linda Kleinbub and Philip Jabri from Pink Trees Press Publishing. Did I say that right? I wish I could swing the camera over to see them. So they're just checking this out because they're thinking about doing a podcast in the future. What did you think of that idea, the bookstore idea? It's pretty funny, right?
I agree that people react to how you
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
Well, because these two are.
Fashion tips.
Well, look at this. The two of them are very fashionable
Yes.
and really cool people. So I thought that was something else. It was a great experiment.
It was a lot of fun, and I
Right.
was so happy when the week was over.
So what you said you brought something because one of the other articles I really liked was when you went to Coney Island.
Yeah,
Did you bring an excerpt?
I did.
Let me just
yeah.
talk briefly about it. So Anne went to Coney Island, but you didn't go to the the part that tourists go to.
Right.
Which is what I like about you is like you really like you're not afraid.
No, I'm not afraid.
Yeah. So you went to the outside, the outskirts, more west of the boardwalk.
Yeah,
and
there's
all.
about 30 blocks like beyond the amusement park that stretch all the way. I guess New York Harbor. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So why don't you
Okay.
read something from
Yeah.
that?
So I thought it'd be interesting to like talk to the residents who actually live in Coney Island,
Right.
and it's kind of a rough neighborhood.
Right. Right,
So
sure.
I talked to a lot of different people, and then toward the end, I stopped into this. There's actually a bait shop in Coney Island,
Right.
run by this guy named Derek.
I love that part of the story.
Yeah.
So you really, by the way, it just seems to me that you really make the people comfortable because you're getting like you go up to all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
And they seem to, most of them, I know you've had some people that probably didn't want to talk. And for the generally speaking, you even
Yeah.
get photographs
Yeah.
of the people that you
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah.
And they seem to get into it.
It's a
It's
lot
most-
easier to get people to talk to you for your blog than for the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, I guess
They're
so.
like, oh, no one will see this.
Right.
Right?
Well, they probably can't relate to the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. So this is just describing a little encounter I had at the bait shop. At the Coney Island Hook and Bait Shop on West 24th Street, the owner, Derek, declined to give his last name or let me take his photo, but was happy to chat about his 300-square-foot shop, crammed with enough merchandise for 3 stores. We got fishing rods, bait, weight, lines, all fishing apparel, rain gear, boots, anything that equates with fishing, he said. We got bloodworms, sandworms, lugworms, clams, shrimp, squid, fresh bunker, When I asked what one can catch around Coney Island, he referred to a poster, Fishes of the North Atlantic, on which he'd circled all the local species, and then proceeded to describe each fish in great detail. He was a long talker, but it was fascinating. You can cut the wings off a skate, he said, and throw it back, and it will regrow the wings. The waters are so fresh and pure right now this year, we won't know what we'll see next, he concluded. Anything could pop up that we've never seen before. Customers come from all over to enjoy Coney Island's bounty. I'm on the internet now, he said. I've got people coming from Jersey, Manhattan, Staten Island, Queens. They call and say, Derek, we're coming out today to do some fishing. I say, sure, come on out. As if on cue, a customer came barging into the shop, which he'd had some trouble finding. Hey, boss, he said, we walk like 44 blocks. I don't know how y'all did that, said Derek. This island doesn't have 44 blocks on it. We only got 36 blocks, buddy. The only thing that matters is that I'm here, said the customer, and my son. He is 11 years old. He lives in North Carolina. I live on Church Avenue. See? Derek turned to me. That's in Flatbush. They make it here. You know what I mean? People are talking about the bluefish, the striped bass we're catching here. I really don't care, said the customer. I'm just going to throw my line in. I'm going to let Jesus Christ decide if I got luck or not. How about that? Believe me, if that water's moving, that means Jesus got fish in there. Jesus guarantees you a fish, said Derek. All you got to do is have patience and respect for that water. No, said the shopper, faith. Respect, said Derek. No, faith, said the shopper. Faith go over everything. Things got a little heated, with Derek explaining the need to respect the water and the shopper arguing for divine power. Faith is number one, Derek agreed finally. He pointed to a framed portrait on the wall. See that man right there? He brings me here every day. That Jesus brought me here. You know, I needed that guy when my daughter passed away, said the customer. I met Jesus a long time ago, said Derek. She was 20 years old. 20 years old, said the customer. I need that guy. Listen, I had 5 spinal surgeries, said Derek, not to be outdone, so I know God is real. The customer took a deep breath before he replied, I just need some bait.
That is unbelievable. I mean, what are the chances of going into a bait shop and getting that.
I know. I was so happy.
It's intense. It's like you. It sounds like fiction.
Yeah.
Had you ever
People
been?
are really like that.
I
Everywhere
know.
you go.
I know. Have you ever been in a bait shop before? That's probably the first.
There's like 5 bait shops in New York City. They're all over the place. Anywhere there's water, there's a bait shop, and
Well, it
there's a
makes
weird
sense.
person
But
running
had
it.
you ever
Yeah.
been in one?
No.
Have you ever fished?
Yeah, my grandfather used to
Okay.
take me fishing. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Were you good? Did you catch stuff?
I did catch fish, and then we would throw them back. Little sunfish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Too small to cook.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think like you take a lot of chances. Some of the episodes less than others. So that one, I think, some people would have trepidation going to that part of Coney Island because, the history and, how media is, what people think of Coney Island when they think about it. Sometimes they think about that. There is the section you went to probably is relatively high in crime. I don't know. But so I feel like that took a little bit of guts. But there's 2 other episodes. I keep saying episodes. They should be episodes. That maybe even had more, took more guts to do.
Can I read the Meadowmere one?
Which one is that?
That's the one with what's his name, with Bebop?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a fun one.
You do that, and then I'll talk about the 2 that I picked.
Oh, what are the 2 you picked?
Unless we're talking about the same thing. The one, that little seaside village in Queens.
Yeah, that's Meadowmere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
God,
I'll read
it's
that
so
one next.
intense.
Yeah.
Does it explain what it is? You
I'm
reading it
just
from
going to
the
read
beginning?
like an excerpt from
Sure,
it, but
okay,
I'll
and then we'll
introduce a
talk
little.
about it. Yeah, perfect.
So Meadowmere,
I had never heard of it before.
yeah, it's a neighborhood of about maybe 20 houses. It's kind of a little beach community.
Right.
It's mostly vacant lots full of crap.
Right.
And it's caught up, so it's behind a strip mall
Right.
on this like super highway that runs between Queens and Long Island.
Oh, okay.
So the way to get to this little village is to like cut through a little hole in the strip mall.
Wow. No kidding.
And then
So how did you find this?
another writer friend told me
Oh,
about it.
that's,
He's just like, Rob Stevenson.
Rob Stevenson.
Wonderful Substack called The Neighborhoods.
Yeah, I read his too. He's
that's
also
really
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
He does more detailed about places in New York City.
A lot of history.
A lot of history stuff.
Yeah, he's very
it's also
funny,
very
though.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to cut through the strip mall, and then there's like this weird neighborhood behind it, and it looks like a town in Appalachia.
Right.
And it floods almost every night with like 3 feet of water. So it's just a disaster, right?
Right.
Anyway, I wanted to write about who would live there, and also the fact that it's in New York City is very weird.
And I'm sure when you were there,
Yeah.
it was like you felt like you were some kind of place that. Yeah.
It feels very remote.
Right.
So I went in the middle of the day and there was like no one around. And I'm like, shoot, everyone's probably at work.
Right.
Who am I going to talk to? And then I found this guy out in his yard and he was like working on his boat. And I talked to him for a little bit, but he didn't have a whole lot to say. And I'm like, is there anyone else around? And he's just like, you should go talk to Mary and Bebop.
Okay.
And he walked me around the corner and he said, that's where Mary and Bebop live. So I'll take it from there.
All right, cool.
Okay. Mr. DeVanzo walked me through an enormous street puddle and around the corner to a yellow bungalow on the other side of the bait shop. That's where Mary and Bebop live, he said. They might be home. The one that says no admittance, I said, pointing to the sign on the front gate. He shrugged. See how you do with them. Mr. DeVanzo resumed working on his boat, and I decided to try my luck with Mary and Bebop. Alas, the gate guarding the front walk was fastened with plastic ties, so I couldn't get to the front door. Reader, I don't know what got into me, but I crept through the side yard, crammed with a half-dozen motorboats, and approached the house again. Inside, I heard someone running a vacuum cleaner, and by jumping up and down beside the tall fence, I could just make out the figure of a large man in an orange plaid bathrobe cleaning his living room. I waited until he shut off the appliance before I started yelling, "Hello!" hopping up and down and waving my arms. The fellow really should have told me to get off his damn lawn, but instead he stepped out onto the deck and chatted over the fence for an hour. The 76-year-old Vietnam vet who owns the bait shop next door, it's closed on Mondays, confirmed that his name is indeed Bebop. Nobody calls me Bob, he said. I used to be dancing around the TV when I was little, snapping my fingers and dancing. That's how I got the name. Mommy said, he's a little Bebop, this kid, and it stuck. They still call me that. Everyone down here, no one knows their real names because we all got nicknames, like Mousy, he continued. One guy's name is Mousy because he's always so quiet. And Shaky, he's always shaking. Everyone's got names. I asked what it's like living in Meadowmere. It's pretty nice, said Bebop. No one even knows we're down here. You know, if you look from the highway, you wouldn't even know. And the tide, you get used to it. You live by the moon. Every time you see the moon coming in, you pick everything up. It was hard to imagine picking everything up. Beyond the boats, Bebop's yard treasure included a 2-story children's fort, pallets, a propane tank, a large H&R Block sign, fire extinguishers, outboard motors, a picnic cooler, and enough plastic lawn chairs for an outdoor wedding. The best part about living in Meadowmere? The crime rate's about 0.1, said Bebop. That's about it, because everyone knows not to come down here and mess with stuff. Why is that? I asked. Because after Hurricane Sandy, we had to run all the looters out of here, he said, with our rifles and our shotguns. Run them out of the neighborhood. I was standing here. My neighbor was out there with his rifles out. My nephew was there with a pump shotgun. Yeah. We started shooting up in the air and said, you'll get shot in the butt if you don't get out of here. So you kind of got a reputation after that, I observed. Do you ever get strangers coming through now? Once in a while, said Bebop. I just run them off. I just tell them to get out of here. I come out with the rifle. You're trespassing. Get out of here. That's the last warning you'll get. I'm lucky you didn't come after me with the rifle, I said. Yeah, the neighbors do that too, you know, he said. We got a lot of dubious characters coming through, the hippies and the yuppies, taking pictures, you know. I don't know if they're going to come back, rob the house at night. He told me a bit about his life. He traps eels in the bay. His wife and grandson help with the bait shop. He hasn't been to Manhattan since 1974.
Wow.
And from his account, it sounds like the war really did a number on him. I was so messed up from the jungle, I didn't leave my room for 3 years. He still can't get a good night's sleep, he said, but life has its consolations. He writes poetry inspired by the beauty of the bay and does his best to help others, hoping to make up for the war. I bake, I sew, I cook, he continued. Stupid stuff, like cakes and cookies. Steaks, sausage, and peppers. My first wife and my second wife, they didn't cook either one. I had to learn to cook for myself. Bebop's current wife, Mary, who he says is an excellent cook, came out to see what was happening. When I told her I was writing a story about Meadowmere, she shook her head and indicated I should focus on her husband. He loves to gab. He'll talk all day long. Can I ask one more really stupid question? I said. If Meadowmere was an animal, what animal would it be? Bebop answered immediately. I'd say a honey badger. A what? Said Mary. A honey badger, said Bebop, because they're very quiet, but you don't want to poke them.
That's awesome. Didn't somebody pull a gun on you? Or no?
No.
No, okay. Just
Sorry.
the suggestion of it.
What a letdown. No, actually, like, someone did finally, like, tell me to, like, get out of the effing neighborhood.
Right,
yeah,
right,
and I was so happy.
So what was going through your mind when you were there? I mean, like, you do these things well, they said other people are visiting and taking pictures.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I can't imagine. Like, maybe I'm a chicken. I can't imagine doing that and going into a place like that.
Yeah, something takes over me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you absolutely should, like, go sneak into this person's yard and, like,
right.
like, jump up and down in front of their window. I don't think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
You just go do it because you know it's going to be
it's going to be okay and it's going to be fun. Like, I just know that. Yeah.
Have you ever picked a subject that didn't work out? Because, that you were disappointed with? Because I don't think I've read one that I thought wasn't worthy of the...
Have I had a story that didn't work out?
Like, because you're doing something like that. You could have gone there and gotten no story. There could have been nobody
That
there.
never happens.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know why? Because either it can go well or it can go terribly wrong.
And either way,
it's great.
Right.
And, like, I have nothing to lose.
Right. The only bad thing would be if there was nothing.
Right, but it's New York City, so there's always something.
That's
it's
true.
very reliable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're showing a side of New York that you don't really generally get to see, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, was it Staten Island? There was the 2 bagel stores that were like next door to each other.
The bagel shops next to each other. It was so funny.
Oh, God. So those are all gutsy things. But the most recent thing that you did, you decided to go on the subway for 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
And the rule was you couldn't go through a turnstile again. Like you went in and you couldn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, so where'd that idea come from? I don't remember.
I don't know. But it's something I've wanted to do for years.
Right.
I just want to know what would it be like and what would happen.
I feel like
And,
I feel like I've heard people do it, but I don't think I've ever.
Yeah.
But not like
And it's not anyone can do it, and I'm
Right.
sure it's not a novel idea. I mean, it's there.
Well, there are
right?
people that live on the subway.
It's only
practically.
$2.90.
Right.
So
But still, that's a commitment to your art. To be on the subway for 24 hours.
I was so excited to do it. It was just a matter of like making the time.
But I think the biggest disappointment must have been the meals.
Yeah. Well, I've been told that there was a food hall called the Turnstile
Right.
at Columbus Circle where they had all kinds of food. So I'm like, cool. Like there'll be like 8 different kinds of. But it turns out that was outside of the Turnstile.
Right.
So I had 3 meals at the Dunkin' Donuts on Fulton Center.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner at
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah,
I think you should get them to
love
sponsor.
donuts, but Dunkin' doesn't have the best donuts. I'm
No, they
sorry,
don't.
or the best
No.
anything.
No, not
Yeah,
really. It's
yeah.
just, yeah.
My
Um,
dinner was a muffin.
But as scary as it sounds like it could be, I don't remember anything really starkly. Was there any point where you were a little concerned or
No.
afraid or?
No. There was always plenty of people on the car with me.
Right. Well, there was one
But-
point where you were outside
Oh,
and
that
you were
was-
by yourself on a platform, and then
Yeah,
there was like
well,
a
that
security
was a weird
guy
situation.
or a maintenance
can
guy.
I read that part? Because it's so
Yeah,
funny.
sure.
Okay, I'll just read a little excerpt from that.
Yeah. Well, read all of you got if you have whatever you got for.
Do we
for
have
that.
time? I don't want to read the whole thing.
Read
So-
what you think. We have time, but
Yeah.
read what you feel like you want
Okay.
to read.
So I started the trip at like 9 at night, mainly because the bathrooms in the subway system, there's about 20 all over the city. There's like
And
400.
how did you find that out?
There's 486 stations.
Right.
I wrote to the MTA press office and they're
Oh.
like, hey, I'm going to do this. Like, any tips? Like, where are the bathrooms? And they sent me a list of where the bathrooms are, which anyone can get online.
Did they ask you what the hell are you doing this for?
No, I think people must do this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of a stunt.
Right,
Right?
okay, yeah, right.
So I started at 9 because the bathrooms are only open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Oh.
So I knew I could go from like 9 at night to like 7 in the morning without having to pee.
Okay,
So,
because
yeah.
I couldn't.
Really?
No, I get up at
You-
least once a night. You know,
Okay,
I'm an
yeah.
old man with
Yeah.
I'll probably have an enlarged prostate, but I don't want to get into that.
How big is your prostate?
I haven't
Pete?
checked lately. But yeah, my brother has to do it like 6 times a night. I don't know,
Wow,
he probably never
yeah.
sleeps. So that was smart. And,
Yeah.
and what else did you figure out beforehand?
Well, I packed my phone and my laptop. I didn't allow myself to bring any food or water because the rules also said that I was only allowed to eat or drink stuff that I bought
Right.
underground. And I also didn't bring anything to read because I only wanted to read stuff that
Right.
I bought underground, which turned out to be the New York Post. That was
Oh,
about
fun.
all that was available. Yeah.
Well, there were no newsstands are getting harder to find even in there used
Yeah,
to be
there were a
big-
couple 24-hour newsstands I found. Yeah.
Right.
I'll read a little excerpt
Sure,
from
go
that
ahead.
one. So this
Sounds
was
good.
at the what time was this? This is getting to this is 10:30, so I've been on for about an hour and a half, so it's very early.
Okay.
I take the L train to the 14th Street 8th Avenue station where I spot the subway equivalent of a dodo bird, a newsstand. Sort of, like most newsstands these days, it offers 0 newspapers. The magazines, meanwhile, are all dated April 2020, the start of the
funny.
pandemic. David, the clerk, says he mainly sells candy and drinks, but occasionally sells an outdated magazine. People want to pass the time on the train. They'll buy anything, I observe. Yes, he says. David is from India and has worked the newsstand's 9 p.m. to 11 a.m. shift for 2 years. Does it get boring working there, or do you like it, I ask. What? Do you like working here? I work because I need the money, said David. It's not liking it or not liking.
That's a great answer.
So I have all these adventures. I talk to all these people, including some subway buskers. Now it's 2:30 in the morning.
Okay.
This is the low point. I've been awake for 21 hours and still have 19 hours left to go underground. Plus, in a haze of exhaustion, I accidentally left the supposedly safe zone of Manhattan and boarded the E train to Queens. This might turn out to be harder than I thought, I text Aharon. He's a friend that I've been, so he knows that I'm alive.
Right. Okay. Right.
Don't
I
be
remember
afraid
that.
to call it quits and lie about it after, says Aharon. Works for me. I get off at the Queens Plaza station, but the Manhattan-bound train platform is roped off. I am relieved when an orange-vested MTA security guy notices my confusion and comes to my aid. "Where are you trying to go?" he asks. "Just back to the city," I reply. "You take the Queens-bound train one more stop, cross over, and then take any train back," he says. "Have a good night, sweetheart." His kindness cheers me on. I head back down to the Queens-bound platform and wait and wait. A locomotive chugs by, but it's just the garbage train. I watch an ad on the LED screen explaining how to make shrimp ceviche. There's just one other person on the platform, a man slumped on a bench who is either passed out, sleeping, or dead. I wait 20 minutes before another live human comes down the stairs. It's Mr. MTA security guy. "Still here?" he asks. I explain that the train that went by was the garbage train. He nods sympathetically, and then he has a question. "Are you married?" "No," I say. "Boyfriend?" he asks. "Yes," I lie. "Oh," he says, "I was going to ask you out. I'm single." He explains he doesn't like online dating, so it's hard to meet ladies. "Well, you're a nice, friendly guy," I say. "That helps." "And I'm generous," he says. "Very generous. I spoil my woman. I got 2 jobs, but I work a lot. I'm always working, so I don't know if that's a good thing. I like to be with my woman all the time, but I can't." He checks his phone. "You got a train coming in 1 minute," he assures me, and disappears back up the stairs. The next train doesn't come for another half hour.
Wow.
So then I got a little sleep in on the F train, and now it's 6:30.
Were you concerned about falling asleep on the train?
I did fall asleep on the train.
Right, but were you concerned about?
No, there were a lot of people sleeping on the train.
Well, yeah.
There's a lot of people who live on the train.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I felt perfectly fine.
Right.
So 6:30 a.m. The city's 3-hour rush hour begins. I'm happy to arrive at the Fulton Center station in Lower Manhattan. Not only does the bathroom open at 7 a.m., there's a Dunkin' franchise. I buy an egg sandwich and coffee, find a spot against the wall, sit on the floor, and open my laptop. I love my new office. Fulton Center is one of the system's newer, spiffier spaces.
It's a nice one.
The spacious, dimly lit mezzanine, all glossy stainless steel and black tile, has a sort of nightclub vibe. It's nicely chilled, and Sinatra plays tunes in the background. I'm enjoying my breakfast and answering email when another MTA security guard approaches. "How's it going?" he asks. I'm thinking maybe he will ask me out. Instead, he asks me to move along.
I felt sad when I read that. What was his? I guess they have an issue with people setting up shop.
It seems.
Yeah.
Depends what subway station, right?
Right.
If it's like crappy old station up in the Bronx, they
Right.
don't care if you're like living there.
Right.
Fulton Center, you can't sit down
right.
with your laptop.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you must learn a lot about humanity and people.
Yeah. Yeah. Mainly how friendly people are,
Mm-hmm.
how much they want to help,
Right.
how much they want to talk and share their stories.
Right.
I would say 1 out of 20 people doesn't want to talk to me.
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
pretty good. Those
But
are
I have pretty good
odds.
radar too. Like you
Right.
hone that after years and years. Like
Right.
you can tell who doesn't want to be bothered. And you respect people.
How many are there? Do you know
How many what?
of your of these stories? that you've done?
130. I'm working on issue 137 today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how far in advance do you plan these?
I wish it was better, but it comes out once a week.
Right.
And every Monday I publish at 11 o'clock, and I'm like, now what?
Right.
I
Really?
have no idea what
Okay.
I'm going to do that week.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you ask readers for a lot of feedback on
Right.
different things. You have.
Yeah. I
you-
try to make it a group effort, and a
Right.
lot of my ideas come from readers for
Right.
sure. They'll like ask me to check something out that they would like to find out about, but they're a little shy.
And what's
you
the
know?
best one of those that you can think of?
Oh my God! Do you remember the fake steakhouse?
No, I don't.
Oh my God!
Fake steakhouse?
Yeah. So this is like maybe only a year ago.
Okay.
But it started like a year and a half ago. This person was just like, I went on Google Maps.
Right.
Or I went on Google search, and he lives on the Upper East Side, and he wanted to take his parents to a nice restaurant because they
Okay.
were visiting. And he found a Google listing for a place called Mehran Steakhouse. And he had like 80 5-star reviews, and all these people are like, Chef Mehran is a god.
Wow.
Like, this place is like the most amazing, spectacular place I've ever been to in my life. So he went He's like, but I don't think there's anything there at that address. So I go up to East 86th Street where the steakhouse is supposed to be, and it's just a townhouse.
Wow.
And I interview all the neighbors,
Right.
and they're like, no, there's no restaurant there. And I talked to one, and in the reviews it talked about how they would like slaughter like the animals right in the backyard behind the restaurant.
For real?
And I talked to like one of the neighbors, and like she's like, I'm on the roof and I can see into the backyard, and there's no slaughtering happening back there. So I'm like, that's interesting. And I wrote a little story about my sleuthing.
So what do you think?
And then there was there's a little website, so you could like leave a reservation, to ask for reservation. And I left a message asking to know what was happening.
Right.
And about a week later, I got a call from a guy who said he was Chef Mehran.
Oh.
But people should read this story. Because it's the most bonkers thing ever.
Okay.
It's the most bonkers thing ever.
All right.
So there was no restaurant there,
Right.
but what came out of it was just an amazing. It's Mehran Steakhouse if you Google that. The New York Times did a story about it too, but I had it first.
Oh,
yeah.
So they're what do you call them? Poaching your stories?
I wouldn't say that.
Wow.
They credited me, which is nice. They don't always do that.
Right.
Yeah.
This is maybe it's a personal question you don't have to answer. But you're only doing this now, right?
That's right, yeah.
And are you able to live well on that? I mean, are you?
No.
I was because.
No, I'm living off my savings.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's fine. This is a choice I'm making.
Okay.
Because I'm doing what I want to do.
Right.
Well, I'm healthy.
Right.
And having fun.
Right.
And if I run out of money, you know what I can do?
Right.
Get a job.
True. And I feel like you're creating great art, and I feel like there's got to be more for you from it. I really love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
couldn't wait to do this. By the way, I have to thank you because twice, not due to my circumstances, I had to cancel you.
Right.
One was we were going to do it in February, I think. January.
Wow, that long ago.
It was that long ago, and the studio decided to close to do some updates on whatever. Yeah. And then I booked you again, and then the manager had to go out of town. So thank you for. So you're a very persistent person, and you're very nice to. I'm glad you didn't lose interest after being canceled twice.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, and luckily this slot opened up and you were available. So,
yeah.
I was really looking forward to this again because I hadn't seen you in so long, and because I really believe in what you're doing. It's really, it's really great.
Thank you. I'm having a good time.
I have all these dreams for you, a book, a movie deal, or a TV show or something like it. So, do you ever read in public? You ever think about doing that?
Just on podcasts. It's fun. Yeah.
Have you done other podcasts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not the first to think of it, huh?
Yeah, but I love podcasts. Would I want to do a podcast? No, it's a lot of work, and I'm a writer. Yeah.
But you could do a podcast because you already got the material.
Yeah.
You just have to go and record it.
I believe in writing.
Right.
I mean, I listen to probably 5 podcasts a day.
Oh,
I love them, but I'm sticking to what I do best.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Right. But I love hearing the stories, and you read well too, so I could see these being like, right? Couldn't she go to an open mic, and get featured, and maybe something I do in the future, I'll invite you.
Okay, there you go.
I'll put you on the spot, make you read.
You got to do
public.
stuff yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's what I wound up doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wound up. I've
Well,
already.
you've done that a bunch of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
But with this, so I know I've said this before probably a million times on this show. But I didn't start writing poetry until now. It's 10 years. It's funny. I got the dates wrong, and I would say a few years back, I would say, it was I started like 5 years ago, and then at some point, how Facebook does like 10 years ago today, this happened or whatever.
Right.
I realized I was like off by my own calculations. I had started earlier than I would been telling people.
Yeah.
But still, it's pretty. It was only 10 years ago. 2 years ago, I put a book out, and I came here to see my friend Phil Gamage. He was doing I don't know if you remember Phil. It was a band I was in before, Full Throttle, Aristotle, And then I met Wayne Crawl, and I gave him my book, and he invited me to read here. And while I was here, I found out they had the podcast studio. And the weird thing is, there was somebody that liked my poetry. They said, "Oh, you should do a podcast."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I used to do radio, right?
Yeah.
Three college radio stations, and I ran a radio station for the blind for 8 years. So I found out this I could do that, and then I met Philip, and I keep pointing over here because it can't be seen, and Linda, because Pauline was reading the night I got asked to read. It was just weird how it all happened. So in 2 years, so much has happened. And I met them. They told me where I should go to read and stuff. And one thing led to another. And I've been pretty active. Then I started a variety show. So I do that every 2 months at Young Ethel's.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah, where I have a.
We need more variety shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the variety is not as big as I would like it to be, but it's been pretty good. I mean, I have a comedian that does some stand-up, and he's the host. I have poets, and I have musicians, sometimes poets that work with music too. Like the next one's going to be November 2nd. It's a Saturday from 3 to 6, like I said, at Young Ethel's. So there's great people going to be on that. And now I have another idea. I'm going to just put it out there. I'm not going to say where I'm looking to do this, but I'm thinking of doing a live version of this, where I would invite the people who've been on the show to read as features, and maybe do a little open mic. Oops, somebody's calling you.
Sorry.
Or is that a reminder to pick up groceries on the way home or something? So anyway, yeah. Sometimes you have to make your own way and do things.
Yep.
Where did this idea come from? I don't remember if we talked about
Oh,
that.
yeah. So I had a column in the Journal for a long time,
Right.
and then they folded the New York City section.
Oh.
And I'm like, I just want to write about New York City.
And what
I'm
was
like,
the column like? What were you doing?
It was a little like this, but a lot more straightforward, a lot
Right.
more focused on business.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
right.
It was a Wall Street Journal column.
Sure.
And I'm like, I want to keep writing about New York City. And I'm like, who will let me write about New York City the way I want to? And I'm like, no one will ever do that.
Right. So you had to do it yourself.
And I'm like, I'm turning 50,
Right.
right? When am I going to give myself a shot?
Right.
Yeah.
So did you leave that job to do this, or did you start doing this?
No, because they when they folded the New York
they
City
folded, you
section, there
lost
was
out.
no room for a New York City column, and I.
Right. Did you think of looking elsewhere, or you just decided?
Oh,
I'm
you
gonna
know
focus-
what? I wrote to the New Yorker.
Okay.
I'm like, I could write a column about New York City for you.
Right.
And they never, of course, like no one even wrote back to me.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, that'd be like my dream job. That's
Right.
not happening. Like,
Sure.
so I'm gonna create my own dream job, and
Right.
I've never regretted. I've been very, very happy.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot less publications. I mean, I guess the Village Voice still exists, but just
Yeah.
online, right? And I don't even know. I haven't looked at it.
There's a bunch of
and I think it's
good-
mostly just ads now.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good local.
Because what you do could have
papers.
been in like a Village Voice or the New York Free Press or something like that.
Oh my God, I loved the New York Press.
Yeah, remember that?
That was such a funny publication,
it
and they
really
really
was.
let writers have their own voices, which
Right.
is not common these days.
Right.
Everyone is supposed to sound the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would your dream be? That
This is
would
it.
just- right.
This is it. Only more people would be paying me.
Right,
But
more
if
money.
someone like offered me like a fancy job at some fancy place, I'd no.
Right.
This is because people tell you that you'll be free to do what you want, but that's not true.
No.
Ever.
No, it never is.
Never.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's why I like what I'm doing, because
Yeah.
So again, I probably have talked about this, and actually he's been on, but I have a longtime friend, Fredo Genziano. We've known each other since like 1980 or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's a drummer also.
Okay.
So for forever, he was my best man actually when I married Jill. But we were both drummers, so we really never did music together. Except for a while, we had a percussion ensemble, and we did something here and there. But then I put the book out, and I wanted to submit poetry to I forgot the name of it, but it was a poetry contest, and they said you can do it with music. So I said, oh, that sounds like fun. And I asked Fred, you want to write some, because by this point he wasn't really playing drums anymore
Okay.
either, because
Yeah.
I stopped too.
Yeah.
And but he was playing guitar, and you know what? He never played in front of me, and so I had no idea
Yeah.
what he could do.
Okay.
turns out he's a fantastic guitarist, and he puts really good guitar parts to my poetry. And it's like this really cool thing where I'm with this really close friend, and we have this real. Obviously, we have a great relationship, and we have a great working relationship.
Nice.
Because it's really 50-50.
Yeah.
I got the poetry, I give it to him, he comes up with the music, and sometimes he'll make a suggestion about some lines that I wrote, or I might make suggestions about what I want from the music. And now we have that to do together.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
And I'm up front, and like all those years of being in the drummer and being all the way in the back. And when you're a drummer, you usually playing other people's music.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Unless you're Phil Collins or something. Also, one of the traditions I have with this is I usually read one of my poems.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And I could have sworn that you said at some point that you didn't like poetry.
Oh, I hate poetry. Sorry, y'all. I'm in the room with 3 poets now. There's nothing I hate more than poetry.
You said you used to write poetry.
I did.
Did you hate your own poetry?
No, I thought it was fantastic. Of course.
All right. Well, that's so funny. But I'm still going to read one anyway.
Sure. I respect poetry.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I have one. I'm going to ask you which one I should read.
Okay.
One about getting old.
Yeah. No.
No? But okay. One, I know you mentioned about mental illness. I have one about kind of like mental illness and
Is there
homelessness.
another option?
Well, I tend to write serious subjects.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't bring.
Let's.
Okay, this one I'm going to read this one.
Okay.
Because it's not humorous, but I think you'll get into it because it's very New York.
Okay.
It's called Public Enemy Number 1.
Yeah.
His eyes were wide open, and it was as if he was looking up at me with a blank stare from his place on the sidewalk just feet away, asking me to say it's not what it seems, as I sat on the park bench just trying to rest. I felt sadness for him. He wasn't moving or breathing or twitching. He was apparently dead. I chose to respect his death and not take out my phone to take a picture. Joggers ran by and sidestepped him. Mothers pushing strollers seemed quite distressed as they witnessed his position. It's not easy being public enemy number 1, to have the mayor declare war on your kind. After all, you're just trying to survive in the city, struggling in the rat race. No one wins. The color of your fur and the length of your tail decides whether you live or die. A poisonous end to life on Mother Earth was in his cards. He never meant anybody any harm.
You wrote a poem about a dead rat.
I did.
Oh, I love that.
So I did. I picked one.
Yeah, that's
See,
great.
you don't totally hate poetry.
No,
you like
I don't.
that one.
I don't. It's fun to hate poetry.
Okay. Well, you know what? I do this show, and I have to admit, I'm just learning about poetry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things I really need to learn is I am terribly out of focus.
Yeah.
Like, I have 10 books that I started in my house that I haven't finished. And I think I have ADHD, but when I was a kid, they didn't test for that.
Right.
So I'm trying to learn how to like sit at a poetry and really take in what and because my mind wanders all the time.
Okay.
Except when I'm doing something like this.
Yeah.
Then I can be super focused.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm almost scared of conversation because I know I'm going to be in it and then lose track of where I am. But somehow when I do this, it's okay. So we're almost near the end of the show. I want to ask you, what else would you like to talk about what you're doing? Or what haven't we covered that you'd want the listeners to know? Do you guys have any questions?
I would just want to say if anyone has any story ideas for me,
There we go.
to please email me. May I give my email?
Yes, of course. And you're not on Instagram, are you?
No. Well, I'm on. You can find me on Instagram. I haven't posted anything ever.
You should probably do an Instagram for this because you got the photographs and you have the story. You could do a little excerpt under it, and then it'll get another way of getting you out there.
Yeah.
Because you do take photos and you got stories.
I've got photos. I got stories.
It's like, so this kind of reminds me, it's different, but it kind of reminds me, did you ever follow Humans of New York?
Yeah, he does like miniatures of what I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Different.
And has he been successful? Holy MF. Whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
So that could be you too.
It could
be books in the Barnes and Noble.
If I could fit my stories in the little Instagram
Okay,
post.
so we're going to ask we're going to ask the listeners and your followers to, number 1, make suggestions on subjects.
Yeah.
And number 2, make Anne be a superstar in the literary world.
Yeah, make Anne be a superstar. May I give my email?
Of course, go ahead.
So it's my name, Ann Kadet, ANNEKADET, and I'm cool enough to pull off a Yahoo address.
Nice.
At yahoo.com.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yahoo.
Yeah.
And how would they find you on Substack?
Just Google Cafe Ann. It'll
Okay.
come up, yeah. Because
So-
the Substack URL is ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this anywhere else besides getting an email or Substack?
It's only on Substack.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I guess you could do a website too, no?
You're giving me a lot of chores to.
I'm giving you a lot of work. Okay, so all right, first we have to find you funding for all these things.
Right. I need an intern, although I do have a stuffed cockroach who. Yes.
And talk. I didn't ask you about Minnie.
Oh, Minnie.
Yeah.
I'm
tell
not.
me.
I don't really like to. I think it's boring to
Pres-
talk about your dog.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
No.
So what do you guys think? Do you want to hear about some stranger's dog? Really?
People love dogs.
My dog is extremely furry.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of what? Thank you. See, she's so furry that.
She's so furry.
What breed?
She's a border collie papillon.
What's that? I mean, I know border collie. What's that?
Border collies are very smart,
Right.
and so are papillons. They're like little spaniels with like papillon means butterfly
Oh,
in Spanish. So
right.
they have like these butterfly ears.
Right.
She's very smart. So she's like she can copy me. So like now she like tries to open the door with her paws. She like see now I'm talking about my dog.
I like it. I like it. Come on,
Anyway,
it's part of you.
She's a good friend.
You mentioned it in your bio,
Yeah.
so you have
That's
to talk
true.
about
That's
it.
true. Yeah.
Does she ever go with you on the excursions?
I wish I could take her. Often when I interview people, when I do street interviews, I'll
Right.
take Minnie with me because it makes me more approachable, I think.
Maybe
Yeah.
have you? Maybe here's an idea. Maybe you've done it already. The politics of the dog park.
Oh
But
my
that's
God.
been done. But still,
Yeah,
you
but
could do
like,
it differently.
I want to do some kind of dog park
Yeah,
story because there's
right.
there's 200 dog runs in New York City and
Right.
everyone is different,
Right.
right?
So there
but
you
they're
go.
all the same.
We just gave
It's
you
like
an
the
idea.
same people are at every dog run.
Really?
Oh,
they go
yeah.
to they hop dog
No,
run.
I'm
Oh,
yeah.
the same
I
type
mean,
of people.
so,
The same
yeah.
type.
Yeah, they're horrible people.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what's being a dog person. It's like a cat person is not the same. Dog
No.
person, you wind up, whether you want it or not, you
Yeah.
wind up in other people's dogs'
There are
lives.
people who have dogs, and then there are dog people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Are you a person?
I'm a person who has a dog.
Okay.
I'm not a dog
Got it.
person.
Okay.
Although I love dogs.
Yes, and
Different
especially
thing.
Minnie.
Especially.
Is Minnie your first dog?
No, do you remember Lewis?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Lewis was a handful.
Yeah.
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 Well, I got to say, this has been so much fun.
So much fun.
I was really looking forward to it, and I was bummed out when we had to cancel twice.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I hope she doesn't lose interest in doing this, because that could happen. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
This was really a pleasure.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to play the theme song
Okay.
and this is the guitar stylings of Fredo Genziano. You've been listening to Storytelling on Orchard Street. I'm your host, Pete Salamita, and we had the wonderful guest, Ann Kadet. Please go check out, after hearing this, I just don't understand how you would not want to go check out her other wonderful articles. We're in the P&T Knitwear Bookstore Podcast Studio, 180 Orchard Street. Come and check out this wonderful place. And thank you, Linda and Phil. Nice having you in the studio. It's always a pleasure to be in your company. So thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Pete.
Be well, and thank you for listening or viewing or watching, however you consumed this show. Bye.